Ami, we're looking at a catastrophe right now, monumental failure of US intelligence. Do you think Joe Biden himself is aware of how badly his administration has botched the execution of this withdrawal out of Afghanistan?
This is a real craptacular, to be totally honest with you. And the answer is no, they have no idea. In fact, if you listen to Joe Biden today when he spoke with George Stephanopoulos on ABC News, when he was asked, well, what went wrong? He said, I don't think anything went wrong. I think there was nothing we could have done differently. Nobody could have done anything. They are so delusional. I don't know what planet they're living on. I just wonder if the sky is also blue in that universe, because they truly think that, look, sure, we planned for this contingency. Really? You planned for people to be killed in the streets? You planned for total chaos? Yeah, this is one of the most epic failures of foreign policy I've seen in my lifetime, and the fact that they are doubling down on placing the blame other than themselves is it's pathetic. I don't know what to say.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that interview. Got to play a little clip from it, because the president seemed to have a grasp even of what happened and when. Let's have a look.
We've all seen the pictures. We've seen those hundreds of people packed into a C-17. We've seen Afghans falling.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
Ami, that was 2 days ago, I think, when he said that. But what sort of a response is that anyway to that question?
Let me remind you about how callous he is when it comes to the lives of Afghanis. In 2010, when he was vice president, Richard Holbrooke, who at the time was the envoy to Pakistan and Afghanistan, said to him, Biden said to Holbrooke, we have to get out of Afghanistan no matter what. And Holbrooke responded, well, you have to understand, if we get out precipitously, remember this is 2010, what's going to happen is total chaos. We're going to have lives lost, lives of Afghanis who are helping us. And his answer to that was, F it. That was what he said to Richard Holbrooke when he presented him with what the scale of the devastation would be if we left precipitously. Now, remember, they were saying, well, nobody could have predicted this. Nobody except everybody. Okay, my daughter doesn't know anything about geopolitics, said to me, I don't understand why they did that. Because they're a bunch of morons. That's what it comes down to. I don't know how else to put it.
Well, and it's not just Biden, it's some of the intelligence that his administration is receiving. Let's hear from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, who also had no idea that the Taliban were going to take over the country in a couple of days.
There was nothing that I or anyone else saw that indicated a collapse of this army and this government in 11 days.
That general, not too long ago, was spouting off about white rage and other critical race theory nonsense. How much has the politicisation of US institutions made them weaker and led to this profound failure in the intelligence? I mean, if he's to be believed, he was completely blindsided, but you're saying you don't believe him?
No, I don't think it was a failure of intelligence. I think our intelligence agencies knew exactly what was going on. And I think they told him exactly what was going to happen. I think Mark Milley is not telling the truth. I think he's a political animal. And we saw that from the statements you made, but what he said about his theories on, like you said, white rage and critical race theory and so forth and so on. I think he's covering for the administration, and I think this was totally predictable. Okay, if I knew it and you knew it, believe me, our intelligence agencies knew it. But everything's been politicized, and they're marked. It was a policy decision, not a military decision, and now they're covering for the politicians. I think that's what we're seeing now.
Goodness me. Now, there are thousands of US citizens still trapped in Afghanistan. Has the administration at least guaranteed that they will all be returned home safely? And how is this story being played out in the US media?
Well, it is actually quite surprising and actually good to see that his allies in the media have, for the most part, not totally, but for the most part turned on him. And what we've seen is a number of major media personality really take him and the administration to task. And we saw that in the George Stephanopoulos interview. We saw it in the New York Times, the Washington Post. A lot of his allies said, look, we can't, even for this, we can't cover you. For this, we cannot have your back. And I was pleasantly surprised they did. And this has translated quite poorly for the president in the polls. I mean, his poll numbers have been dropping precipitously over the last 6 months. This was one of the worst 6 months of any U.S. president, first 6 months of any U.S. president. And that has been reflected in the polls. We now have seen a 7-point drop since he pulled out. Keep in mind that most Americans don't really care that much about foreign policy, but this was done so badly. This was executed so poorly that the Americans really turned on him. He is now, for the first time, underwater in the polls. He is now below 50% in the polls. And this is due to this, I mean, saying sloppy is being kind, this horrific execution of something, and is now, he's being turned on by the U.S. population.
Well, it's incredible because most of the US population actually backs the withdrawal from Afghanistan. But like you said, it's the execution that has been botched so badly that has so weakened America and caused all sorts of other consequences. Now, we're already hearing reports and seeing vision out of Afghanistan of the Taliban, the so-called new inclusive Taliban, doing what terrorists always do, terrorising, reports of people being whipped, tortured, killed. Do you have any confidence that the new Taliban will be any different to the old?
I can't tell if that was a joke or not. I mean...
Well, people are telling me we've got to negotiate with them. They're different. They're inclusive.
Oh, yeah, they're all woke now. Oh, the Taliban is totally woke now. You know, it's so incredible. I'm listening to the UN, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor. And I'm hearing them say, "Oh, we expect them to do exactly what they said. They're going to be inclusive. There's going to be no retribution. They're going to allow women in schools. They're not going to kill people, and we expect them to stick by those words." And then they said, "Well, I mean, what if they don't? Because they won't." And it's truly incredible. But our ambassador to the UN, with a straight face, looked at the person and said, "We're going to put together a strongly worded letter from the Security Council." That's where, oh no, they're shaking in their boots. Not the Security Council, not a letter. Yes, they are living in la la land. They are totally and completely delusional.
You are right. Yes, strongly worded letter. I'm sure they'll be bracing for that. Now, we have this incredible situation of the Taliban leadership, the spokesman, being given a platform on Twitter and other social media sites, but a democratically elected US president remains banned. This is the Washington Post explanation. They said today's Taliban uses sophisticated social media practices that rarely violate the rules. What do you make of all that?
I have no words, Rita. I mean, I have no words. Just today, my expose on Black Lives Matter was restricted by YouTube. A totally factual representation of what this organization stands for. Yet, the Taliban can have their way in social media, or the Iranian mullahs can talk about destroying the state of Israel, wiping it off the map, and the evil devil nature of the United States. They could do that all the live long day. But if the social media, our social media betters, our social media overlords, look at what if I say, oh, no. If you're not sticking to the woke culture that we're trying to represent in this country, you will be taken to task. No, this is something we've been dealing with in this country and frankly in the world with social media for a long time. And this is another example of how perverse the social media universe has become. It's sad. It's harmful.
Well, I tried to access your fantastic Black Lives Matter documentary just earlier today, and YouTube wouldn't let me until I logged in and created an account and did an age verification, or there was extra steps I had to do. I couldn't just click on the link and see the video. So have they given you any reason for this? Have they said, oh, there's a piece of data there that we're disputing? Because you're very, very careful with your fact checking.
Yeah, not to make this entire interview about me, but happy to talk about me. No, they don't. They send you an email and they say you violated some vague rule, which of course you don't violate. Hate speech or some stupidity like that. No, they give you some kind of very vaguely worded thing that says you can always appeal it. I always appeal it. They always deny it. What tends to happen is then I go on social media, I put it up there, it embarrasses Susan Wojcicki or some other social media person, and they actually tend to put it back up with an apology. But at that point, it's not really the point. It doesn't really matter. But that's the dance I have to go through with them on many of my videos. It is, look, it's a repression of free speech. Now, they're a private company. They can do what they want. But they are dancing a very dangerous dance. And frankly, they're now getting, and again, not to move this to the social media issue, but they're going to find out what's going to be like, because they've alienated the left and the right, and they're going to have problems. And frankly, it's not going to be a good solution for anybody, not for us, not for them. It's not a good situation to be in.
Absolutely. Now, we're only 7 months into this presidency, and yet there is the Saigon on steroids scandal that we've just talked about. We've got inflation soaring. We've got Biden completely losing control of the southern border. There are serious energy supply issues. Is there any fractures yet in the Biden-Harris partnership? Will the Veep move to distance herself from some of these disasters, including the one she's technically in charge of, the southern border?
Oh, God, it's only been 7 months. Ugh. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. She's got to distance herself from him, and then he's got to distance himself from her because nobody likes her either. She could run as far as she wants. It won't make a difference. She is incredibly unlikable. She's not going to win. Everybody in the Democratic Party knows it. It doesn't make a difference.
Well, she wants to be president. She wants to be the first female president. Are you ruling that out as a possibility ever?
I want to be the Queen of England. Is that a possibility?
Well, these days you could identify as whatever you like, Ami. Thank you for your time tonight. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Queen of England, Ami Horowitz. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Always a pleasure, Rita.